What's up, THS? I'm Mrs. Smith from the library. Our theme for this week is good grief, and these are my top three. Our books for this week feature characters who have lived through loss, and their stories are about the courage and compassion that it takes for them to carry on while they're grieving. Our first book is a novel in three parts that takes place 1 year after a school shooting at Ford High School. It's by Bryan Bliss, and it's called Thoughts and Prayers. What I love the most about this book is the format. So there are like three mini novellas that are like loosely connected to each other, but they pretty much stand alone. And each section belongs to one of three teenagers, Claire, Eleanor, and Brendan, who were present at Ford High School the day of the shooting. The first section of this novel belongs to Claire. She has since moved away with her older brother and legal guardian, and at her new school, when we meet her, we see her like grappling with some pretty obvious PTSD and anxiety. She's hypervigilant. She always has to know where the exits are. She doesn't trust anyone, but there is this boy at her school. Of course, there's always a boy, and they start getting to know each other, getting to like each other, and Claire notices some things that make her uncomfortable, and so we get to see like the long-term effects of this incident at Ford High School and how a year later it's still affecting Claire and her relationships with other people. The second section is Eleanor's story. She's my favorite character, and she had the best like mini novella in the book. She plays basketball, and when Ford High School reopened after the shooting, she wore a shirt that she made herself. How do I say this? So it had like a not very polite suggestion about what people could do with their guns. Okay. And she got a lot of notoriety, publicity on social media, in the news for wearing this shirt. And she kind of reluctantly became the face of this movement of students who are anti-gun violence and pro-gun restrictions. So people in her community felt some type of way about that. And so her struggle, her story is about like this anger that she feels and that she wants to express, but she's not necessarily free to without consequence. And then the last section belongs to Brendan. Brendan also hid under the stairwell with the girls on that day, but he is younger than the other two. And his parents pulled him out of school, and he's chosen an interesting way of coping, which is to kind of create like this fantasy RPG lens that he sees the world through. So he doesn't make a decision without like rolling this 20-sided die in his real life. But now that his parents have decided he needs to go back to school in person, he's got some things to work through, transitioning from like this fantasy lens that he uses to filter the world to like being an actual person in an actual building, who's not in like a Dungeons and Dragons style RPG. So anyway, those are the three sections of the novel, and by the time you get to the end, you kind of understand what happened at Ford High School on the day of the shooting. It's kind of just like revealed in pieces through each character's story. It's really beautifully written, and then there's a message there, a lot to deal with. So that is Thoughts and Prayers by Bryan Bliss. Book number 2 is by one of our favorites, Jason Reynolds, and let me tell you why I like it. Not just because Jason Reynolds wrote it, yes, that, but not only that. So you have a friend in your group who's kind of more quiet, and they don't often say things, but like when they do, they kind of speak slower. Maybe their voice is a little softer, and you find yourself just like leaning in, trying to hear what they're saying. Okay, that's this book. This is The Boy in the Black Suit by Jason Reynolds. So, like I was saying, that quiet friend who has like that, little treasure golden nugget of wisdom that you might miss if you're not paying close enough attention. That's how I feel about this book. You're kind of like starting at like, what is this book about? Where are we going with this? And then, I don't know, it just kind of tricks you into like caring about this story where not much really happens. So anyway, it's about this kid named Matt, and when we meet Matt, his mom has just passed away from breast cancer, and he doesn't know how to be a kid in the world without his mom, which makes perfect sense. Other people don't know how to treat him. His dad doesn't know how to act. His dad had been sober for years, and now all of a sudden is like off the wagon again. And so Matt not only has to take care of himself without his mom, but he has to take care of his dad too. And all of this boils down to him getting a job. So Matt's job is to help Mr. Ray, the local funeral home owner, set up and tear down for memorial services. And he also attends the funerals of these people in his community, both old and young, who have passed away, and hears their stories, watches other people grieve their loved ones. And of course, that's how Matt figures out how to grieve his own losses in his life. There is a girl, of course, there's always a girl, and that's kind of, I guess, where the action of this story takes place. I told you, like, not a lot happens, but we learn a lot about Matt through his relationship with Lovey, and their story is really sweet, and I really love this book. So it's another good one by Jason Reynolds, book number 2, The Boy in the Black Suit. Some of you don't know this, but there's an unofficial Adam Silvera fan club here at THS. And there are a lot of us, and most of us got introduced to Adam Silvera through They Both Die at the End, whether that was in Project Lit last year when I realized I loved that book so much, and then I just kind of started pushing it on you guys, maybe checking it out to you when you didn't even ask for it. I made Dr. Jacobson put it in Battle of the Books this year because I just love it so much. It's like one of my favorite stories. Adam Silvera is a wonderful writer, and he has found a new way to break my heart in our top book for this week. It is called History Is All You Left Me. The main character in this dreamy little book is Griffin. He's 17, and the love of his life, his first boyfriend, Theo, has recently passed away in a tragic accident, and in present day, it is the week of Theo's memorial services. There's another frame in this book where we get flashbacks to Theo and Griffin's relationship when they were just friends, how they fall in love, they come out together to their parents. So as we're going through this like week of grieving with Griffin, he's telling us the history of his relationship with Theo. It's very clear to the reader that Griffin and Theo were truly in love, but when Theo passed away, he and Griffin were not dating at that time. They were broken up on a break, and Theo had started dating Jackson, and Jackson shows up to the funeral and has the audacity to act like he and Theo like really had something significant when everybody, it's like obvious it was Theo and Griffin, like that was the one true pairing. So Griffin has this confrontation with Jackson, and there's obviously like some jealousy there and some resentment, but then we also get to see from Jackson's perspective. And Jackson has some memories of Theo that Griffin doesn't have access to, and vice versa. And that is where the drama is created between these two guys who are both in love with Theo and are both grieving his loss separately, but also together. I had one of the other members of the unofficial Adam Silvera fan club here at THS read this book first to make sure it was good before I read it. And he told me that when he was finished, he felt the same way that he did when he found out that Santa Claus isn't real, which is a better review for this book than I could give you in a couple minutes here on this book talk. If you enjoyed They Both Die at the End, this is probably going to be right up your alley too. Very sentimental, very just like beautifully written love story with these like, oh, these characters. Good job, Adam Silvera. Did another good job. Okay, so that is one of the 3 books about grief and grieving that you could check out this week if you're interested in that topic. If you're interested in another topic, I've got a ton of books down here waiting to get into your hands. So please just let me know what you want to read, and I'll get that book to you as soon as possible. That's all I have for you for this week. I'll be back next week with some more book talks for you from our library. Until then, take care. Bye-bye.